What's up, gun nuts? It's Ferrari Steve. Happy Independence Day. I'm shooting this video on July 4th, 2016, and I couldn't think of a better way of spending the morning and probably the afternoon of my Independence Day than exercising some Second Amendment rights and sharing that with you. Today I'm going to do a video that is a review not of a product, but of a service, of the custom action job from the SIG armorer, Robert Burke. So let's get going. We'll eject the magazine, lock the slide open, visually and manually inspect, and make sure that the gun is clear. All right, so why would you want to do an action job? Isn't the Legion perfect? Well, is it? I didn't know, and I hadn't really heard of anybody sending their Legion off for custom action work yet, and so I figured I'd give it a try. And there are lots of places you can send guns off. I've sent my West German 226 off to SIG for their action enhancement package, and I highly recommend you watch that video next. Because I had a 10 video series and I've made an 11th video because I decided to take a closer look at what really went on inside their action work, and I'll probably do a similar thing with this one, but this is just kind of an overall general feel for can we improve the Legion through extra work on its action. So I chose Robert because he has a really great reputation. He participates in a few of the Facebook groups, the SIG SRT Facebook groups that I participate in. Come join us if you're a SIG guy on Facebook. And here's what you get. You get his business card. thesigarmorer.com is his website. I'll put that up here in the notes here. Go ahead and check it out. You get a sticker. You get a big tube of Super Lube grease, which is an excellent product. I highly recommend this. Among there are two other greases that I really like, and I really can't choose which one I like the best, and I really doesn't make that much difference as long as you use quality. But Super Lube synthetic grease is super duper quality, pun intended, and this is what Robert uses, and he provides this whenever you get custom action work. You get one of these. You also get one of these, a detailed invoice showing exactly what he's done to the gun. So let's have a look. He did the SIG Armorer P Series carry level action job with creep and over travel reduction. So I chose that because this is not a competition gun. This is a defense everyday carry gun, and I wanted a carry job. I didn't want it to be too light of a trigger. I want a defensive trigger still, and double action should have some pull to it. You should really intend to pull the trigger, not do it accidentally. And again, the invoice is May. I didn't get around to shooting this video until July 4th, so I'm sorry. I also had the Total Automation Qtr system installed. And what is that? Well, we'll talk a little bit about it. I'm planning on doing a separate video on that, but it's essentially another way to reduce reset other than the SRT kit in the gun. And then here are Robert's notes. Arrived with a 9.5 pound double action pull, 3 distinct hitches, a single action was measured at 4.25, creepy, not like scary and hangs out at schools with a camera, I think, just, some creep, with 2 distinct hitches. It's sending it back out to me with a double action pull of 7.75 pounds, so not quite 2 pound reduction. Let's see. Reduced take up, smooth, single action at 3.25 pounds, so dropped about a pound on the single action. Reduced creep, over travel, and reset. Pistol passed all tests before and after work flawlessly, and pistol just seems to hit the target even when the shooter feels a miss. I know exactly what he means by that because I've had the same experience. He talked to me on the phone after getting the work done before sending it back and said, boy, it's just this X factor. The gun just wants to hit. I agree. I know exactly what he feels. But like I said, I wanted to send a Legion to him because he hadn't done custom work on a Legion yet. I don't think a lot of people have thought to do custom work on a Legion. They might think it's a waste of money. And I want to see if it was. As far as how much it cost, but I paid for it. And the price is $245 for his carry action job and another $125 if you want the Qtr system installed. So we'll talk about it. Now, you might say, well, Steve, I know the Legion already has an enhanced action. Well, okay. What does that mean, though? And I'm going to have a written article that talks about this, but, I hate to burst your bubble, but there is nothing magic action-wise going on in the Legion that isn't in anything else. Now, that enhanced action, you could call it, is because they now use S7 super finish coating. S7 is a type of steel, but they use what's called a super finish coating on the internal parts of the Legion, which is a chemical finish, which does make things smoother, but there is no additional grinding, polishing, sanding work on the Legion that isn't already done with all their other SIGs, meaning there isn't any. I hate to burst your bubble. If you disagree, please show me proof. But if you can't prove to me that Nothing additional goes on to this action that makes it an enhanced action. That doesn't mean there's any custom action work done, because there's not. And, you know, I looked inside there before sending it off to Robert, could not see any polish work. There's nothing magic going on inside this gun action-wise. Now, you could say, well, it's got an SRT kit and the Gray Guns trigger, and that enhances the action. Fine. If that's your definition of an enhanced action, then yes, that is enhanced. But I'm telling you, there is nothing extra going on inside a Legion with polishing or magic coatings or anything that isn't already in all the other guns on the SIG assembly line. Just sorry to burst your bubble. So the enhanced action, yeah, enhanced over older SIGs, but starting in about 2013, they started using that super finish coating on everything, and that does enhance the action over the older style actions. I think that's all we can say, guys. So if you have proof otherwise, please share it with me, and I will take it back and publish otherwise. But that's my opinion, and I need to see evidence, and will change my opinion if I'm presented with that evidence. Anyway, so why would I want to send it off and see? Well, I wanted to see if maybe some hand work could improve it. And let's measure. So before I send it off, I measured 11 pounds, and if you watch my 229 versus 226 Legion head-to-head video, you'll see that I measured my double action pull at 11 pounds. So let's measure a double action pull post-work and see what we get. 9 pounds, 4 ounces. Okay, so not quite 2 pounds lighter. Again, Robert's numbers were lower, but relatively identical, right? I trust his gauge better than this little one and how I'm just jerking it here. 8 pounds, 14 ounces. So, yeah, on that double action pull, it is reduced by almost 2 pounds. 3 pounds, 16 ounces, and he was showing 3 1/4 pound. I trust his better. 3 pounds, 13 ounces. And I didn't measure a single action pull, I'm sorry, on the before. But clearly that double action is drastically reduced, and that's really where you know, trigger weight and smoothness matters. But again, that is a quantitative analysis, and that is not even a third of what's important. What is most important about a trigger pull is smoothness. So let's see how it feels. Yeah, that's butter smooth, everybody. And yes, it's smoother than when I sent it. I'm familiar with this gun. Wow. That single action is just, I can't feel anything. I'm really trying to. Let's see the reset. Okay, so the reset is actually pretty similar to how it was, but there wasn't much to improve, quite frankly. The Legion's reset is one of its high points, and the trigger itself is one of its high points, but the action, yeah, the hand work on this action has resulted in an improvement vastly of the quality. So we have a quantitative improvement, and you're just going to have to trust me that there is a qualitative improvement. Is it worth a few $100? Well, I guess that's up to you. Is a Legion worth what you paid for it? That's also up to you. As for what's going on inside, well, I don't really want to take it apart and show too much. I'll take this grip off and we can have a peek inside. But I guess the short answer is I know what Robert does, and he's not ashamed to admit what he does. But in general, he polishes things and corrects things that need to be corrected and doesn't touch anything that doesn't need to be. Which you might say, well, why would anyone do that? Well, watch my other video, video 11 in my West German series, and you might get the answer. I know he contours the spring, the bottom of it, and polishes inside. Now, polish doesn't change geometry. Polishing just means that the strut moves inside the spring better. I know he spends a lot of work on the, a lot of time working on the hammer strut here. And the Legion is an E2 hammer strut, and that's too bad. I wish it was the standard hammer strut. I think they did that just to save money, so they didn't have one hammer strut that they use in all their models. But I prefer the straight up and down regular one. But the Legion comes with the bent one from the E2, and it gets a lot of polish work. I can see a lot of polish work in there. I can also see some extra things in there that I didn't see before, and that is the Qtr Kit. Now, if you want to learn more about the Qtr Kit, I'll do a separate video on that, but that's from Total Automation, and it is their approach to reducing the reset without one of the drawbacks that they claim the SRT kit might have. And essentially, it's a new old stock tool steel German-made sear rather than the MIM S7 American sear that comes with the SRT kit. So it's harder, and it will hold its geometry longer, especially when it's polished, versus the S7 steel, which is softer, and after a while you will reduce the sear engagement between the hammer and the sear. Ideally, when I talked to Robert, he said you're going for 10 to 12 thousandths of an inch, which is what the X5s have on it from Germany, and that's what he shoots for when he does the Qtr Kit install, and that will stay that way for thousands of rounds. Whereas the SRT kit over time will wear that down, especially if someone tries to polish it, will it end up in a negligent discharge? I don't know. Is there more risk? Maybe. I mean, theoretically, it's possible that there is. But anyway, it's a different way to solve the same problem. So this is no longer the SRT kit sear and no longer the SRT kit safety lever. There is a modified safety lever and sear, and then they weld a little bit onto the bottom of the hammer to help push forward the trigger bar. You won't be able to see it, but there's a little extra bit on the bottom of the hammer that pushes this forward, which essentially means when you push that forward, the trigger, when the trigger bar goes forward, see, the trigger comes backward, and so by putting some forward pressure on that trigger bar, the trigger's actually closer to your hand, which again reduces the reach, and therefore the trigger pull, even though it is measurably lighter, it's also qualitatively feels lighter because your finger is more compressed to get it. So the intermediate trigger from gray guns reduces that reach, and also the QRT kit pushes this forward, the trigger bar forward a little bit, which again pulls this back and also eliminates nearly all of that slack. I would say there's just minor slack there. Right there, boom, I'm at the wall. And so as I start to pull, I get creep, which a double action pull is creep. That's not bad, but it is super smooth. Yeah. No stacking, no creeping. Yeah, there is creeping. It's supposed to be creeping, a double action pull. No stacking, no hitching is what I meant to say. It is just butter smooth and fantastic. So what doesn't he do again? Well, he doesn't do things he shouldn't do. I know that spring is a stock spring. He contours the bottom of it so it sits better on the strut, but he doesn't cheat and compress it or try to cut things off and reduce the pull weight. You tinker with those springs or go too light of a spring or do cheaty things to those springs, you're going to get light primer strikes. And light primer strikes are completely unacceptable on a defensive gun. Competition gun, fine. You lose a round. You lose a match. A defensive gun, completely unacceptable to have even a single light primer strike, and I'm not willing to gamble that. And so I know Robert uses OEM spring weights and doesn't cheat with them on his action work, which is, again, impressive that he can get those kind of pull reductions measurable without dropping those spring weights down. He'll use the stock 21-pound SIG spring or the Wolf Springs 19-pound, which, spoiler alert, actually is very, very, very similar to the SIG, what SIG calls their 21-pound spring. They're kind of interchangeable, and you won't feel any difference. So the Wolf 19 is essentially the same as a stock 21 SIG spring from the mainspring. So there we go. We'll do a couple more pulls. Just qualitatively, it's wonderful. Is it more reliable? I think it is. I think you could make an argument that the Qtr kit is more reliable than the SRT kit, especially over time, and it just feels smooth. I think it's an improvement. I know it's an improvement. I can feel it. I mean, we've measured it, so you get, if you're one of those guys who just cares about trigger pull numbers, all right, you're going to be happy. But if you're really one of those guys who cares about the quality of the pull, that's me, then, you might want to give Robert a call. I'll put his website up here, but it's thesigarmorer.com, and I appreciate it, Robert. Thank you. He's happy to answer the phone, talk you through things. I warned him that I was going to do a review, and he said, okay, bring it on. And I told him I wasn't going to lie. I'm going to call it like I see it. And he said, okay, bring it on. And I appreciate that openness and honesty. And again, it's no secret what he's doing. But you could try to go in and try to replicate what he's doing and say, oh, I can polish that. Okay, well, you might try. But, the cost of getting it wrong, just knowing where to polish something, that doesn't tell you how or why or how much and what to look for to know if you got it wrong. And it's just not worth betting your life on. Leave it to a professional. And there are others out there, but this review is of Robert's work, and I think it's excellent, and I can highly recommend him. Again, this is Ferrari Steve. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you like what you see. Give us a thumbs up. Get out there, use your guns, practice. If you want to make it better, send it off to someone to make it better. If you like it as it is, that's great. One man's upgrade is another man's downgrade, or just a waste of money. To me, this was not a waste of money. It was worth every nickel, and I'm grateful for it. Si vis pacem parabellum, and stay safe out there, and happy Independence Day.